Hey fellow book lovers, it's me Sophie, and today we're gonna do a haul video. Today I have about 22 books in the genres of thriller, fantasy, and romance, as well as a slight supernatural horror book. Oh, I want to say that the majority of these books I got secondhand. Some I did buy from the bookstore, and one was sent to me. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Starting with Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. It's been more than 20 years since two sisters have spoken. They never got over the disappearance of their third sister, and then suddenly, decades later, an old man is murdered, and there turns out to be a lot more connection than they think. They unearth secrets, and they learn the truth of what really happened to their family. I'm very excited for this one. I've heard that it's pretty intense and it's pretty graphic, which makes me a little nervous, but I can handle it. I usually don't like this kind of like smaller but thicker book. I usually like more of a, a larger paperback. But yeah, excited to get into that one. Next, we have Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. So a student goes missing, and then the main character's husband goes missing. And it turns out that there's even more unexplained disappearances. The problem with the husband going missing is that the wife saw his body and now it's disappeared. Next, we have Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. So they're the perfect couple. They are charming. She's an amazing homemaker. He's a successful lawyer. They have dinner parties. They entertain friends, but there's a little more going on than what meets the eye. So that looks like an interesting thriller, probably about a domestic situation, but I don't know if there's some more sinister things going on as well. Next, we have The True King by Summer K. Sullivan. I was actually sent this by the author. I am reading it and then going to review it on my Bookstagram, which you should absolutely follow if you're not following. Sophie_Eliana Reads. But this is a fantasy book, and it's the sequel to the first book, The Last Heir. It might look like a really small book, but the text is really, really small. As I said, this is a sequel, so wars on the horizon between two countries, and the shadow wall that's keeping the human realm and the dark realm separate is close to crumbling, and there's two stories going on, and they all both have different goals, but it turns out they might be more intertwined than we think. Moving on, we have Boyfriend Material, which is a LGBTQ romance. The two boys on the cover have nothing in common except that they both need dates and they both need convenient relationships. And so they set up fake dating. Fake dating is one of my absolute favorite tropes. I love it because it turns from none of them wanting to date to them both falling in love. And that's always so fun to read about. Next, we have House of Hollow. This is by Crystal Sutherland. Iris and her two sisters were always revered as kind of strange, but then suddenly the third sister goes missing and she leaves behind strange clues. And it's up to Iris and her remaining sister to put the clues together to figure out what happened. And there's kind of a touch of supernatural, and they learn where they truly came from in that supernatural world. This is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. And it's another LGBTQ romance book. It's a bachelor type story, like the reality TV show. The lead in the reality TV show falls in love with the producer of the same TV show. And it's kind of just their story of how, the producer is trying to get him to open up with the contestants, but in the meantime, they fall in love. Next, we have The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. So Libby inherits a mansion that was left to her by her parents. But it turns out that 25 years ago, 3 dead bodies were found in the downstairs area, and a healthy crying baby was found in the upstairs area. That, along with the 4 missing children, leads to a very confusing murder investigation. And also by Lisa Jewell, we have Then She Was Gone. So Laurel's daughter Ellie goes missing, and then years later, she meets a man, goes on a couple of dates with him, and then meets his family. And the thing about this is that his daughter Poppy is the spitting image of Laurel's missing daughter Ellie. And this book is kind of about what happened to Ellie. Where did Ellie go? Did Ellie run away? Who is Poppy? Why do they look so much alike? It's about that. Next, we have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is chock full of Greek mythology, which I think is going to be a super interesting read because I love mythology. I've read the Percy Jackson series growing up, so I absolutely love Greek mythology. I love mythology of all kinds, but since I did read the Percy Jackson series, Greek mythology has a special place in my heart. So our main character is Shore, the Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge University, is a serial killer. Just that first line, oh my god, like what a great way to start describing a book. Though he's adored by a secret society called the Maidens, she's still sure of this, and she slowly starts to lose her sanity as she's trying to prove her case, basically. Alex Michaelides also did The Silent Patient, which was also about a therapist kind of going insane a little bit. So I think he does that idea really well, so I'm excited to read this thriller. Next, we have The Last Time I Lie by Riley Sager. This is going to be my second Riley Sager book. The first one I read was Home Before Dark, which I gave 3 stars. I enjoyed it for sure. It wasn't my favorite thriller, but I did definitely enjoy it. The main character returns as an art instructor to the camp she went to as a kid, where the last time she was there, her bunkmates actually disappeared and were never ever seen again. She must find out the truth about Camp Nightingale and what really happened to her campmates. For another romance, we have Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. I love Tessa Bailey. I read The Sweetest Fix by her, and it's such a great book. Would recommend picking that one up. But this is also by her. And Georgie is seen as laughable and kind of a clown around town. So when she proposes a fake dating scheme to Travis, Georgie is actually Travis's best friend's sister. So it's kind of a flip on the best friend's brother trope. It's just gender swapped. And as I said, also has fake dating, and I love that trope too. It's a good one, as I kind of said earlier. Next, we have a fantasy, and everyone knows this series. This is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. The first one, of course, is ACOTAR, or Court of Thorns and Roses. This is the sequel. It has a very beautiful color, very beautiful cover, very big book. Very big book. Let's see, how many pages is this? 624 pages of very thick paperback we have here. And of course, this is only the second book in the series. I believe there's 4 or 5 books. I'm not sure exactly how many. As I said, this is the very big sequel to ACOTAR. This is more of Feyre's story as her marriage to Tamlin is approaching. She also has to play out the deal she made with Rysand. And it's kind of just the story about that. And now that she's an immortal Fae. Next, we have Good Girl, Bad Blood, and As Good as Dead, both by Holly Jackson. So this is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and this is the 3rd book in the series, the 3rd and final book. It's a trilogy. In the second, someone goes missing, and it's up to Pip again to solve the investigation. And then in the 3rd one, Pip comes face to face with a stalker who's trying to take her life. So they're very intense. It's getting more intense as the story goes on, higher stakes. I picked these up secondhand as well. I don't usually get hardcovers when I do secondhand because it's usually way more expensive, but these were pretty cheap, so I decided to go for a hardcover. Next, we have another romance by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's called One True Loves. And it's about our main character and her husband, and as they're newlyweds, the husband has to go on assignment, and unfortunately he goes missing. Years and years pass, and our main character tries to move on, and she actually ends up getting engaged. But then her husband returns to her, and that's kind of the premise of the book. Next, we have a thriller, a very, very well-known thriller, No Exit, by Taylor Adams. This is a book where the protagonist finds a missing child in the car of one of the patrons in a diner. She doesn't know which one. She doesn't know who the car belongs to. She just knows that there is a kidnapped child. That means that one of the people in the diner that she's stranded in because of snowstorm, is a kidnapper and possibly even worse, a murderer. So she has to kind of race against time and save herself as well as this child and figure out who did it and see if she can save the child. This is the last fantasy in the bunch, The Night Circus. I got this a while ago. Again, I got this on Pongo Books, just like I got the rest of the books. The majority were on Pongo. I'd really recommend using it. They have really great deals. The books are usually super inexpensive, and you can get Pongo Cash really easily as well, which is like the loyalty cash. So anyway, back to The Night Circus. It's about this traveling circus that arrives magically and leaves without warning, and then it's also about a competition between 2 magicians, and against all odds, they end up falling in love as well. Another thriller, we have The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. So the main character is a recluse, and then one day, the seemingly perfect family moves in next door. But then she sees something that she wasn't supposed to see, that she shouldn't have seen. And she kind of starts to question, are they really the perfect family? And she finds herself wrapped up in all their mess. Next, we have The Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the sequel and the 3rd book in the trilogy of The Folk of Air. The first book, of course, is The Cruel Prince. 5-star read. You must read it. I recommend it so heavily. It's such a fantastic fantasy. It's a YA fantasy, so it's a really great introduction to fantasy. It was my first fantasy since Harry Potter. I really didn't read a lot of adult fantasy, and this really helped me dip my toes in the water. So as I said, it's the continuation of the series, and it's about Jude and Cardan and their adventures. Last book in the haul, everybody. We have a thin book, a classic. It's The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'm sure many of you have seen the Netflix series. I know I have. It's fantastic. Would recommend watching it. The book seems to be pretty different though. The names are the same as the characters, but other than that, it seems that the plot is pretty different. So 4 people show up at this estate, the Hill House, and horrifying things start to happen, and they don't seem to know the true power of the house until it's too late. So yeah, that was the haul. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow my Instagram, and please like, subscribe, and comment. Bye!